Hello, welcome to the channel. A few of you have asked to see inside the transmission case on the Troy-Bilt 2860 snow thrower. The 2860 is one of the more common MTD snow blowers that does not have power steering. So today we're going to take a look at it. We're going to tip it up on its nose, pull the cover off, and then talk about all the interior parts. This is a good video to watch so you understand the components that are inside, and if you ever have to change the engine to transmission belt, you'll need to get inside that cover anyway. So let's get started. Down in the dirt. Okay, we're going to tip the snowblower up on its nose. Before you do that, you want to make for sure that you have less than a half a tank of fuel in the gas tank. If you don't, gas is going to run out the filler hole on the gas tank. Also, if you don't drain the fuel completely, a little bit of gas will run out of the carburetor bowl. I will put links in the video for showing you how to remove all the fuel from this unit. So grab it by the handles and just lift it up. These MTD units without the power steering, they're not real heavy, so you can probably pick it up by yourself. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, get someone to help you. Also, they may want to slide ahead as you lift them up, so with two people that gives you a little bit more control. On this carpet here, it's not going to be a problem. So, alright, the cover that we're going to take off is this cover here. There's four 10 millimeter screws that hold it on, and then it fits underneath this piece of metal here, and it also fits in a slot down here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll see you in a second. These transmission cases are not sealed, so moisture can get in them, debris can get in them. The debris all falls down away from the gears and everything, so it's not a problem. But don't be alarmed if you see something like this. It looks like I have had a mouse try to use this as a nest over the summer. So just go ahead and clean it out. You're also going to see some other things too. You're going to see some debris. The bottom of the case is also going to be dirty. Any rubber filings off of the friction drive, oil, grease, all that type of stuff will drop down on here. That's not a problem at all. If you find bolts and washers and pieces of gear teeth, then you need to pay attention and see where that stuff fell out of. But usually it'll be dirty, but don't worry about that. That's normal. There are not many parts inside of a solid axle snowblower transmission. The four main parts that you see here are this bottom pulley is the impeller and auger pulley. This here is the friction disc, and it also doubles as the pulley for the transmission belt back up to the engine. The friction wheel, the gearing, and the axle. MTD, and basically all of the MTD machines are this way. They might even all use the same components. I haven't checked. But there's a real small pulley on the engine, goes to this larger pulley here, which is also the friction disc. You have another gear reduction here between the friction disc and the friction wheel, and then another large gear reduction here. The gear is actually part of the shaft, and then this big bronze gear. Since this is a bronze gear, it really doesn't need any grease to it. I do suggest that you put some grease, not oil, some grease on this every few years or so to keep this spinning free. If you notice that things are binding up that doesn't like to shift, go ahead and lube this. Make sure you wipe the grease on, because any grease that drips down onto this while you're working on it is going to cause this to slip. So let's go into this just a little bit more in detail. This bottom pulley down here has a keeper on it and a brake so that the impeller stops as soon as you let go of the handle. There's a gap here between the two, so it's not that big of a deal to change the belts, because you can remove this belt here and drop it down and slide it out, or remove this keeper, pry your brake back, remove this belt and slide it out, bring it out of the top to change the belts if you ever need to. Operation: when this is spinning, this contacts this friction wheel, which drives through the gearing to your wheels. And it doesn't matter if you have the airless tires like I have here, or if you have a pneumatic, it all works the same way. When you pull down on your drive handle, which is the right hand handle on the MTDs, it actually lifts up on this plate, and that's where your clutch is. In other words, by pulling up on this plate, now you can get the power through this wheel. When this system here is also spring loaded, other brands, they don't have the spring loading part in them. This one, because it uses just a simple cable and the spring, when you move this back and forth, it automatically wants to go to high gear. So you pull it back and it tightens the spring up when it does that. And the spring is up in here instead of this one down here. Sorry about that. So it's a pretty simple system. Changing this friction plate is not too bad of a job. You can do it. You have to pull the wheels, and there are a few steps. Just do a search on YouTube if you ever need to change this wheel out. If you see big chunks out of it, or if it's wore all the way down to the metal, it's time to change it. But they typically last, nowadays they typically last a long time. You'll probably get 10 years or more out of these, unless the mice come in and chew things up. So there is a sealed bearing here, so there's no actual grease that you have to put in here. But like I said before, if you want to lube this up, this always makes everything work a little easier. So the system is pretty simple. Let's talk about some of the common problems that you may have with it. Just around the neighborhood here, there's quite a few of these snowblowers around. They're 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years old. And just about all of them really have never had any issues with the transmission. Few have had to have the friction disc replaced. One of the bigger issues that they've had is people will drop something on the snowblower and they'll break these plastic pulleys, or this gets all rusted up, and because of that they'll break this cable up here. By the way, if your transmission doesn't want to back up for you or gets out of adjustment, that's this part right here. So loosen this up, and then you can adjust it so that it's first gear, second gear, whatever. So that normally doesn't go out of adjustment either, just so you know. So like I said, the biggest problem that you may have with these is breaking a cable once in a while. They are very easy to replace, and they're not very expensive. If your machine doesn't want to engage, in other words, doesn't want to drive forward, it may be that the friction disc isn't coming up onto the Let me point this down a little bit, make sure I got it down there. There we go. In other words, if the thing doesn't want to go forward, it may be that this friction plate is not coming all the way up to the friction wheel, and it's just a cable adjustment instead of something actually wrong. So you do that cable adjustment here. You just loosen these up and slide this down to tighten the cable up. This one is about right. There's a 3/4 of an inch flex in it. I could probably tighten it up just a little bit more and it would work fine. The same way over on the impeller, you use this here to adjust this cable to tighten everything up. I was finding that this machine would throw snow very well until you got into heavy snow, and then it wouldn't do it as well. But if I pushed on the handle all the way, it would do it better. Well, that meant that this was too loose. So I had to loosen this up and tighten this up. Now everything works fine again. So, yeah, simple little things to keep your machine running. Alright, that's all I have on this. It's pretty simple. Any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And I'll talk to you later. Bye. Down in the